Have you ever encountered something that shouldn't exist? Share your experience in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more chilling tales. They told me it'd be good for me. One last job, something to keep me grounded after rehab. Something quiet, solitary. Structure, they called it. A healthy routine. I think they just didn't want me around people. I wasn't picky. You take what you can get when you've spent the better part of a decade proving you can't be trusted. The call came from a city contractor I used to do work for: cleanup, maintenance, a little repair when I was sober enough to hold a wrench. He didn't ask many questions. Just gave me an address, a key, and a warning: don't wander. That was the first red flag, but I was too grateful to notice. The school was on the edge of the old industrial district, where the city stops pretending it remembers what it used to be: Abraham Lincoln High. Red bricks, boarded windows, spray paint over every door. The metal lettering had rusted off the front, but you could still see the outline if you squinted: Lincoln Lions, home of the brave. The brave had long since evacuated. Even the pigeons seemed reluctant to nest in the rafters. The school had been closed since the early 90s. Budget cuts, asbestos, maybe a stabbing or two. No one gave me a clear reason. All I knew was that the place was scheduled for demolition in a month. My job was simple: get it clean enough for the wrecking crew. No squatters, no fire hazards, and no lawsuits if some vagrant stepped on a nail. I walked the halls on my first day, flashlight in hand, boots crunching over broken glass and fallen ceiling tiles. You ever been inside a building that's been empty too long? There's a silence that settles, deeper than quiet. It feels like the walls are listening, like they're waiting for someone to speak so they can remember how. This place didn't echo. It absorbed. I started with the first floor. Locker doors hung crooked like broken teeth, graffiti layered over older graffiti. Most of it crude or bored, until I reached the south stairwell. That's where I saw the numbers, not spray paint, chalk. White, uneven lines scrawled on the wall beside the staircase. 308 repeated, again and again. I figured it was a room number. Maybe some punk's idea of a ghost story. Didn't think much of it at the time, but I paused. I remember that. The basement wasn't on the blueprints, but the key opened it anyway. The air changed as soon as I stepped down. Heavier. Thicker. Like someone had sealed it in jars and left them open just for me. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, but the cold wasn't just temperature. It was memory, and something older than that. There were lockers down there. That surprised me. A long, windowless corridor. No classrooms. Just rusted lockers, floor to ceiling on both sides. Some were padlocked shut, some had caved in completely, and one was open, just a crack. You guessed the number, 308. I remember reaching for it slowly, like I expected something to bite. It didn't. The door creaked open, louder than it should have. Inside, it wasn't dusty. It wasn't clean either, but it looked untouched. Like someone had opened it yesterday. There were 4 items: a cracked Walkman with faded stickers on the side, Duran Duran, Motley Crue, a varsity jacket, red and white, with a lion stitched onto the breast, a silver necklace with a charm shaped like a crescent moon, and a flask. I stood there too long, just looking. Then I closed the locker. That should have been it. It wasn't. That night, I kept thinking about the flask. It was nothing special, just dented steel with a little rust around the cap, but I remembered the weight of it. The cold against my palm. The way my fingers curled around it like they'd done it 1,000 times. I didn't drink it. There wasn't anything in it, but I brought it home. I told myself it was curiosity. Hell, I told myself a lot of things, but none of them were true. The dream started that night. I was back in high school, but not mine. It was this one. Lincoln High, but the lights were on, the halls were clean, and students walked past me like I wasn't there. Their faces blurred when I tried to look too closely, but I remember the jacket, red and white. I remember the Walkman, someone humming along to it down the hall. And I remember the voice, a girl's voice. She said,
"You left it open. Now you have to take it back."
I woke up gasping. The flask was in my hand. I hadn't touched it, not consciously, but there it was. The next morning I went back, told myself I just wanted to check, to prove to myself it was just junk in a locker. Nothing more, but when I opened 308 again, something had changed. The necklace was gone. I searched the ground. Checked the neighboring lockers. Nothing. The others were still there. Jacket. Walkman. Flask. But the crescent moon was missing. That's when I noticed the smell. Just faint. Sweet. Almost floral. Like cheap perfume. It clung to the metal. I didn't want to tell anyone. I couldn't. Even if I tried, who would believe me? So I kept working. Each day, I swept another hallway, cleared another classroom, but I kept coming back to the basement, to locker 308. And every night, I dreamed, the same school, the same halls, the same voice, only now, I wasn't just watching. I was wearing the jacket, listening to the Walkman, walking to class, like I belonged there. Like I'd always belonged there. And in the dream, I wasn't 38, I was 17, before the divorce, before the bottle, before I started running from everything and everyone. I didn't want to wake up. When I did, I was holding the jacket. Not in the dream, in my bed. I never brought it home. Or maybe I did. Maybe I was just forgetting. But that was the first moment I started to wonder, what else had I forgotten? By the end of the week, I'd brought home the Walkman. It wasn't planned. I didn't even remember putting it in my bag. I just found it on my nightstand the next morning, its plastic casing still warm, like it had been used. There were no batteries, but when I held it to my ear, I could hear something, faint static, then music, buried under the hiss, a girl's voice again, not singing, whispering.
"You weren't supposed to take it. Now you're part of it."
I dropped it. Later that day, I told myself I was being paranoid. Withdrawal hallucinations, maybe, even after rehab, your mind keeps playing tricks. It doesn't trust the silence, it fills it with ghosts. But this wasn't just in my head. When I got to Lincoln High that morning, I found my name written in chalk on the locker beside 308, Dean. It was my name. No one knew I worked there. No one should have. I wiped it away, chalk smeared under my palm like ash. The locker itself, 308 was still open. This time, the jacket was missing. Only the flask remained. I stood there a long time, staring at the empty interior like it might breathe. Then I noticed something else. There was a photograph tucked behind the hooks, old, faded. For teenagers, smiling, arms slung over each other's shoulders. The boy in the middle was wearing the jacket. The girl next to him had the necklace. Another boy held the Walkman. The fourth, standing slightly apart from the others, held something in his hand, the flask. The back of the photo had names, almost too faint to read: Rick, Marcy, Kyle, and Danny. I couldn't stop staring at the last name. Danny looked familiar. But not from memory, from the mirror. He looked like me. I shoved the photo in my pocket and slammed the locker shut. It didn't stay closed. It never did. That night, I didn't sleep. The Walkman hissed all evening. Even when I threw it in a drawer, the jacket kept showing up in different rooms. Once, I found it folded at the foot of my bed. The next time, it was hanging in my closet, as if it had always been there. And the flask, I hadn't opened it yet. I didn't want to, not because I feared what was inside, but because I feared what wasn't. An empty flask is an invitation. And I was tired of saying no. I made it through the weekend by staying out of the house, slept in my truck, ate from vending machines, told myself I'd dump the items, return them to the school, seal the locker for good. But when I went back on Monday, the building was different. Brighter, warmer. Lights flickered on in the hallways, even though the power was supposed to be cut. I heard music down the corridors, tinny and distant, like it was playing from old speakers, familiar. I followed it, against every instinct I had left. The halls were no longer empty. Not physically. Not exactly. But there were shadows, shapes behind frosted glass, laughter echoing faintly in locker-lined wings. The air buzzed with adolescent energy, that chaotic storm of expectation, hormones, and fear. I wasn't alone. And part of me liked it. That was the worst part. I made it to the basement, gripping the flask like a totem. 308 was waiting, still cracked open, like a mouth mid-sentence. Inside was a note this time, lined paper, torn from a notebook, faint writing in smudged blue ink. We're waiting for you. Detention never ended. I dropped the paper and stepped back. Footsteps. Soft, behind me. Then a giggle, a girl's voice again, closer this time. You're late. I turned. No one, just the locker slamming shut. My ears rang with the metallic snap of it, and when I opened my eyes, I was upstairs again, in the gym. The bleachers were out, banners hung from the ceiling, students, real, physical students, milled about like it was 1987. I looked down. I was wearing the jacket. The Walkman was clipped to my belt. The necklace hung around my neck, and in my hand, the flask. I didn't fight it anymore. I just opened it. The liquid burned, but not like alcohol. It was memory. Instantly, I was there. I remembered everything. Their names, their faces, that final night. The fire, the basement, the laughter that turned to screaming. We'd snuck in after hours, like we always did. Danny brought the flask. Marcy brought the music. Rick and Kyle dared each other to open the locker. It wasn't 308 back then. It didn't have a number. We didn't know whose locker it was or why it had been sealed. But we opened it anyway. And something came out. Not smoke, not fire, time. It folded around us, dragged us inward, pulled us into itself like a mouth swallowing its own tongue. I was the only one who got out, Danny. But I forgot. Maybe because I wanted to, maybe because it wanted me to. And now I'd come back. Full circle. The gym around me dimmed. Students dissolved into dust. The banner above me, class of 1988, shivered, then rotted. I was alone again. Except for the locker, still open, still waiting. And this time, I knew what it wanted. It wanted me to stay. I didn't go home. Couldn't. There was nowhere else to go but deeper in. That night, I slept in the janitor's closet. The door didn't lock anymore, but I felt safer in small spaces, corners, nooks, places the thing in the locker couldn't fully reach. I dreamed of bells, old school bells like the ones they had in the 60s, but they didn't chime, they screamed. Every ring was a name: Rick, Marcy, Kyle, and mine, Danny. I woke with blood on my palms, fingernails torn from digging into brick. I wasn't in the closet anymore. I was back in the basement, the locker wide open, waiting. Inside it now, a yearbook, not just any yearbook, 1988, the class that never graduated. The pages were warped, water-stained and curling at the edges, but the faces inside were perfect, too perfect. Everyone smiling, everyone looking right at me. Except one face had been torn out. My own. Beneath it, someone had scribbled in black pen, "You're late to detention. Come back and take your seat." I should have burned the place down, right then, lit the whole cursed foundation on fire and salted the earth, but I didn't. I turned the page. There we were again, the four of us, Danny, Rick, Marcy, Kyle. This time, we were older, not 1740, maybe, but still in school clothes, still in front of that damn locker. Still smiling. The image shimmered. For a moment, I swore I saw it move. Marcy blinked. Kyle's hand waved. Rick pointed toward me. Then Danny. I slammed the book shut. The room went dark. Not naturally, like a power outage or sundown, but like something took the light. My breath fogged. The air went ice cold. And then, steps, slow, measured, bare feet on linoleum. A girl's voice.
You opened the wrong locker, Danny.
I turned, saw nothing, but I felt her behind me, not Marcy, the girl from the tape, the one who whispered through the Walkman.
You were supposed to forget. You were supposed to leave. But you brought us back.
I tried to speak, but my voice was ash in my throat. The air pulled, time stretched, and the locker, 308, opened even wider. Inside it now wasn't metal or hooks or shelves. It was a hallway, a full corridor of the school, but upside down, lockers hanging from the ceiling, floors made of classroom desks, chalk dust floating upward like snow. And in the center, a desk, one chair, a nameplate, Danny Cooper. I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. Detention, in this place, wasn't a punishment. It was a sentence, a literal one. We were trapped in memory, looped over and over in the echo of that night, like cassette tape rewinding into itself. Kyle was there first, still 17, still bleeding from the eye where the locker door had hit him.
"About time,"
he said, voice crackling like vinyl.
"Thought you were too good to come back."
Rick came next, neck twisted, grinning sideways.
"Danny boy, remember how it ended?"
Marcy arrived last, her mouth stitched shut with notebook wire. She nodded. They didn't blame me. That was the worst part. They just kept repeating it.
"It's not your fault. You didn't know."
It was always gonna be us.
But I did know. The memory unspooled completely now. That final night, we opened the locker on a dare, but I felt it even then. That tug, that pull, the thing inside, it wanted someone to replace it. It didn't care who. And I ran. I left them there, let the door close behind me. I'd blamed the fire, the renovations, the school board, anything but myself. But now I knew. The locker was hungry, and I'd fed it. Now it wanted payment. And time, in here, didn't pass. It just circled, like kids carving initials into a desk over and over again, trying to leave a mark. Rick offered me the flask again.
"This time you finish it."
I drank. The burn was sharper now, not memory, but truth. My skin peeled away, not physically, spiritually, like all the lies I'd wrapped myself in. Sobriety, redemption, penance were stripped away layer by layer. I saw myself, the boy I was, and the man I became. And beneath it all, something worse. Something waiting. I looked up. The others were gone. The classroom collapsed. Only the hallway remained. I stepped forward. Back into the locker. I woke in the real world, or something close to it. Lincoln High was gone. Not burned, not demolished, just absent. Like it had never been there. I stood in an empty lot, grass half-grown, concrete cracked, no buildings, no signs. Only one thing remained, a locker, rust red, standing upright in the middle of the field, door half open. I didn't touch it, I just turned and walked. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. Click, that sound a locker makes when it opens just a little more. And in my pocket, I still have the yearbook. The last page changes sometimes. One night, there were 4 students on it. Now, there are 5. And I swear the 5th is smiling, just like me. If this story sent shivers down your spine, give it a thumbs up and share it with fellow horror enthusiasts. What would you do if you found a locker that opens on its own? Let us know in the comments.